DigiCo, which is, so it's 1 through 24. Those are the ports on the back of the board itself. So when you're like routing a brand new channel, like say when there's a violin and it's not patched already to something, and you go back and you're like, okay, like this will be empty, and you'll go and be like, okay, I need to patch it to, say they have it plugged into a certain spot on the stage up there, and they're like, okay, like I'm plugged into number 9. When you bring it up, it'll probably come up in analog local IO. So that's one thing you have to watch out for, because you'll be like, oh, 9, all right. Plug it into 9, you're like, I'm not getting anything, because that's selecting 9 that's on the back of the board here.
Plugged into that.
Right. So that's one to watch out for. And make sure what you want to be in, everything up on the stage is, unless it's a Dante input, is coming into the DRAC. This DMI1 DRAC, that's all of the inputs that are in those stage boxes are 1 through 32 on the DRAC. So that's what correlates, those numbers are what correlate to the numbers in the stage boxes up on the stage.
So then, from then, you would do what?
So now you hit, so again,
like
9, we'll just go 9 again, just because that's what we're doing. And now, if they're plugged into 9 and they're making noise with their instrument or voice or whatever it is, you should be getting something. Again, now depending on, so for any of the additional instruments that we have, like the couple of DIs that we already usually have set up there are active DIs, so they need phantom power, which if you look up here, there's that little red dot that has a 48 in it. That tells you that phantom power is on. So on your channel overview here, here's this button right here turns on and off phantom power.
I see.
So right now it says it's on, and you can see it up here that red light is there, it's on. No red dot up there, and it says off here, so phantom power is off. So that's sometimes an issue too, like if you're patching a new instrument or an instrument that wasn't already patched into here, it may not automatically have phantom power on. It may be all plugged in and patched right, but you're not getting anything. The next thing to check, I would say, would be phantom power. But not everything needs phantom power. So like if we have an electric guitar up there, like that stereo pedal board that he's got, that doesn't need phantom power. But typically the DIs that we use up on stage do need them. We do have some passive DI boxes that don't need phantom power, but they're older, and I think they're not necessarily, I know we've had issues with them in the past. I don't know whether they work, whether it's the DI, maybe it was a bad cable, I don't know.
Okay.
So they're there as spares if we need them in a pinch, because sometimes we do, but it's not going to hurt them if you do put phantom power to something that is a passive DI or a passive instrument. It's not going to hurt it.
That was my next question.
So that's one thing. Like most of our microphones are not, they're dynamic microphones. They don't require phantom power, but there are some that do. Like on the kick drum, those need phantom power. The 2 overheads that sit above, those need phantom power. If you accidentally sent phantom power to one of the other microphones that doesn't need it, it's not going to break it. It might pop or something. You might get a little static when you first initiate it, or you take it off or whatever, but it doesn't require it to work. And it's not going to destroy it. Now there's certain microphones that, like ribbon mics, which we don't have any of those, and we don't have to worry about using any of those. Those you'll destroy, and they're expensive microphones. So, side note, but I don't think
So
you'll have to
keep
worry
going
about that.
through the rest of that.
All right.
flow.
Actually, hold on. Sorry.
Yep. Nope.
On the screen with all the inputs, like some of
So
those are
it-
dark gray, some of those are light gray, some of those have red around them. Blue
Yes.
is obviously the ones that are selected. What do all those colors mean?
Okay. So if it's 1, 2, and 3, how they're, I'm trying to determine whether that is that light gray or is that dark gray. That's dark gray. I don't know.
That's dark gray.
But it's like, so it's, those are unselected or whatever, but those channels are being used right now. Those are patched somewhere. The ones that are dark, the darker ones, not the ones that are in red they're locked. Like, so, and they're not locked. So you can unpatch them, but they're locked from changing during snapshot changes, which that's probably beyond what we need to understand right now. But so like during snapshot changes, like there's various different parameters that change. You don't have to worry about any of those in red changing, regardless of whether somehow it might have been programmed to change. Unless it was unlocked, it's not going to change when you change a snapshot. But again, that's for another talk, another day.
So light gray and dark gray, then dark gray is in use.
Right. Yeah. These channels that are in dark, which are
Most of them are locked.
are mostly all in red, those are patched to something right now. Now you could still patch them, but you just got to realize you're unpatching it from wherever it was patched before. So that's something to keep in mind. And so these other ones were like 4, 5, and 6 here, those are not patched to anything right now currently. So those are like open channels that it's like, oh, if I needed to patch something, I could patch it there as long as it was a space on stage that worked for whatever you're trying to plug in.
Would it have to be 4, 5, and 6 up there?
Yeah, well,
Or
yes,
am I missing something here?
with some caveats. Because there's a patch bay in the back
Yeah.
that goes from those boxes on stage to the actual stage box in the back, the rack in the back, what that this is representing.
Okay.
So and so you can swap the patching to make whatever number on stage, like if you, because we've done this before where we want to do like a stereo channel, the numbers on here need to be, it'd have to be 31 and 32 next to each other to be one stereo channel together. But we wanted to get, crowd mics on the corners of the stage or whatever. So you've got one that's, maybe we have 32 over there, but on that side it's channel 3 or whatever it is. And so in the back, we can, patch in the patch bay channel 3 and make it 32.
31 or 32.
So it'll show up 31 and 32 on here, but on the actual stage boxes, it's plugged into 3 and 32 or something like that.
Got it.
Which, that's something, because that changes sometimes, because it's rare, but I think one of the times it's happened in the past was like when we have the school play, if they're doing something that, because they do stuff different than what we do on a normal Sunday. So there's things that have changed because of that. Like they've rerouted some of the patching in the patch bay in the back, and then it didn't get put back the way it was after that was all done and everything was put back, and all of a sudden, we've had to backtrack and figure out, oh wait, what's not plugged in where it needs to be. And so it's another area that, and honestly, it'd probably be helpful to go back there and actually look at it just so you can see, where it should be a 1-to-1 patch. It's not necessarily all the time. So if for some reason you can't figure out anything else that's like, oh, everything should be working based on what we've all checked up to this point, that could be another factor that is a point where, okay, everything's plugged into where it's supposed to be, but I'm not getting signal on that channel. Or maybe if you're seeing signal on a different channel, like you've got somebody with a guitar plugged in and he's like, yep, I'm on channel 9, and he's playing and nobody else is doing anything, and all of a sudden you open up this view and it's like you're looking for it on 9, but you're not seeing any signal on 9, but oh wait, there's signal on 21.
Will you see it?
Yeah, you'll see, and that's here. Let's get visual. These channels that aren't labeled, besides for like input 2, input 6 with a number, they're unused channels. There are ones in here that are used, but they're just hidden so nobody messes with them. But I'm just gonna grab a brand new one. For anything you're gonna need, it's probably already over here, like a violin or a cello. And a lot of times, even if like sometimes they've wanted to do a second acoustic guitar when they didn't plan on it originally, even then sometimes I may just grab one of those 2 channels and just set it up on one of those because it's already mostly patched. We just need to make sure it's coming in on the right channel. But I'm going to do it from scratch with a brand new channel just to kind of go through the whole process. And I guess I'll start from the beginning. Okay, so this white button right here brings up an overview of all the channels on the board. So like these are your layers so this is your top layer, and you can page down, go to your second layer, page down, go to your third layer. And that's it. You can make multiple more layers, but we have three layers that we have set up here. Shows you all those, and then these are the additional channels that are hidden in this box over here. They don't come up unless you bring this screen up. And then you hit edit, and you can drag and drop any channel anywhere you want. So you can move if you want this channel to be over here, you can move it over there if you want.
Which accomplishes what if moving it over here?
Then it depends on like certain people. I'm left-handed, so I don't know. I think my brain works backwards from most people, but this I've set this up the way that worked intuitively for me. Other people, and this is how it gets built every Sunday, and it typically stays that way. I think there are maybe 1 or 2 other engineers that once in a while they may like to have certain things over, like on this hand or over whatever, like for whatever reason they may want it on a different hand or in a different placement that works better for them. I honestly don't think anybody moves channels around. But you can. And
I do. I move channels around.
All right. So yeah.
Because if I'm doing the sound, then I want it to be the way I want it.
Exactly. That's the idea. Don't feel like it's stuck that way, because if you want certain things right at one hand, and it makes more sense and works better for you to have certain channels next to each other, or more on this side of the board rather than this side of the board, or the other way around, like that can be done. So they can be arranged in any way you want them. But this is just what I've gotten to from where I started that worked good for me. And so that's...
You would then have to save that, right?
Correct.
To be able to use again, or, yeah.
Yes.
So if you don't save it, you can change it if you want for what you're doing at the time. Don't save it, and it's gonna go back, or am I?
Not necessarily. When you shut the board down, even if you don't save it, when you start it back up, unless you save snapshot information, it won't change anything on the snapshots. But the board will come back up the way it was shut down. So even if you don't save it, it should still come up with whatever was left there when it was shut down. All right, so yeah, so that's it. Again, edit, and then pull up one of these channels from down here up to where you want it up there, and then hit edit again to everything's locked in place. Then you're not moving anything around, and then get back to your main screen. And so here we got, it's labeled input 2. I just have a cable plugged into one of the DIs, plugged into something that's making white noise, pink noise, sorry. And so I'm gonna like just go through the process of patching that thing and seeing the signal come in, and why you might not see signal where you should see signal, and whatnot. So, all right, so here's this, whatever, a violin shows up. Got them plugged in on stage on input 25 on the stage box. So we go in here, go to the, see how it popped up on your local analog I/O? So again, that's what's on the back of the board. We don't want to patch it unless you're actually sitting here plugging something into the back of the board. We're not picking any of those channels. So DMI1 DRAC, I'm going there, and now 25 is what I got it plugged into. So 25 pops up, and it automatically, it comes up right away with phantom power on. That doesn't always happen, so I don't know, I don't really know why sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it scares me because, so I do it a certain way to keep it from happening, but like where having phantom power where it'll bite you or where it'll wreck something besides like those ribbon mics, like I have the headphone jack on this computer plugged into the back of the board here, so I can play stuff off of that computer through the PA, or I use it to go into here. But if I sent phantom power to that, it would torch that computer. So you don't want to do that.
You want to set that up before you plug it in.
And the only thing I'm wondering is if for some reason, if it senses something on the other end, like whether it can tell of the internal electrical structure of what's on the other end and says, oh, this thing needs phantom power or not. I don't know.
Do you want me to plug in a dynamic mic and see if it pops up?
Yeah.
We don't have to do that now, but.
Okay, yeah, we'll try that after that just to see, because I know sometimes I bring up a brand new channel and patch it for the first time, and again, it's like, oh, like phantom power is there, and it's already, like I didn't have to turn it on, and sometimes it's not, and I have to make sure I turn it on. So, yeah, I am interested to know like what the theory is behind why that happens that way, but
So we'll keep going like you are.
so yeah, but I'm gonna turn phantom power off right now, just for the sake of like right now, like that thing it's making noise. So there should be noise coming through into this channel 25, but it's coming through that DI that needs phantom power, and right now we don't have phantom power. So just to like go through now, I turned phantom power on, and if you were looking, it was kind of quick and you didn't notice, but as soon as I turned phantom power on, there was a little blip on the meter, that little black space there. That's its own little meter. So I'll do it again just to so you can see it come off, and you can see it up here too on the input. So it's like, oh, like, okay, something happened. Now it's probably just not gained up enough to actually make noise. But now, so let's pat it down. I bet you that doesn't matter. This is the input. So I think there's a volume knob on that, and I think it's turned way down. Okay. So that's probably. But like you can see, we're getting signal.
Something, yeah.
Ideally, it would be way more than that. And another thing you can do. So this is the input meter. So this is just telling me, hey, I've got signal coming in. So right now, that guitar player is playing, or violin, or whatever it is. They're playing something, and I'm seeing some signal coming in. So I at least know between the stage and the board, it's routed the way it should be for me to get it to the board. Now, this is going to show you output signal. So this is where you turn your fader, you push your fader up, and then you want to see signal there. That still doesn't mean you're going to hear it coming out of the speakers, because the channel may be sending signal somewhere, but it may not be sending it to the PA, because that has to be routed yet. So that's where you come over here. So this shows your signal flow. It's coming in. Now this is where like you might send it to, if you need to, you can send it to the in-ears, like using a recording send, or like when I multi-track record, like I'm sending it to one of these locations. That's just a secondary feed to, I don't know, like I said, I use it for multi-track recording, or there's a couple channels that we use that to send it to the in-ears. But here, it'll show you, you got your arrows here. Now it's going to your input processing, which, it's just like your EQ, your filters, and then, you can put inserts on, which we don't do any of that, so you don't got to worry. That's a 201 course, so we won't get into that either yet. But it's just going through the path. Here's your EQ if you've got EQ on it that you can put on it, and then here's your outputs. So now your group outs. This is where everything's going to go outside of. There's different situations, but again, that's like stuff that you won't have to deal with or shouldn't have to. But for this, everything will go. Typically, it might just go to the master bus. But like for instruments, like up here, I've got instrument groups that everything goes through first, and then it goes from those instrument groups to the master bus. I'm just trying to figure out if that's worth going through all that, or if I should just.
It might be.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Because that's another thing, I guess let me bring those up while I do that, because otherwise seeing it is what will help it click. So let's throw this up here for now. All right, so now let's just say this is an acoustic guitar that we're setting up. Now I'm gonna send it to the guitar group, and it's gonna go from the guitar group. That's when it's gonna go to the master bus, which will, once we push this fader up, it'll come out of the PA. Yeah, it's turned on. Yeah. So yeah, groups. Guitars. There's basically, like when I do, again, like for a violin or a cello, if that's something we're putting in, a lot of times, like I'll put those in the guitars group as well, rather than, like I don't have a separate group for strings or whatever that can.
Guitars have
That's
strings.
Yeah, yes. Well,
We can rename it.
Like on the group level, I would process them very similarly, so that's just why I do that. But yeah, that's a very subjective thing that doesn't necessarily matter that much. So yeah, so it's going to the guitars group. So now that we've got signal going out, once you put your fader up, we got signal going out, so we should see that coming into the guitars group. Now you see it there. And the guitar fader is up. It's, again, here, let me actually,
The guitars group,
yes.
so all guitars, the strings come into that group.
Yep.
What's the purpose of that? What happens then? You still have individual control, right?
Correct. So, like, the only thing I'm doing on the group level is I'm processing it together, but it's not, like, you still, or whoever's mixing would mix the individual channel
Okay,
appropriately.
yeah.
But overall, like, whether it's the group of guitars or violin or whatever it is, those are getting some EQ and compression on them, and it's very light.
Okay,
It's
so
very
you do
minimal.
something on the group
But there
level.
is something I'm doing on the group level
Okay, got it.
to everything all at once.
Okay.
Now, actually, we can go up there and look too, because, like, that sound bullet that I'm using I'm trying to make pink noise, but it's just making noise. That also, like, we can go up there and look on that when it's plugged into whatever cable is patched here, like that, it's got lights on it telling you, okay, like, cable's good, the ports on the patch bay are good or whatever, like because it'll tell you if it's like shorted out or if the polarity's flipped on it or something like that. And it'll also tell you if you're getting phantom power, because we had this problem once actually where, like, phantom power was turned on the board, but there was one or two of the jacks on one of those panels that, for whatever reason, they weren't passing phantom power. I remember there were two specific channels that we had this issue with, and I think it ended up being something with the patch bay in the back. I don't remember.
That was my first
There
thought.
was
Yeah.
something with the patch bay in the back or something like that. They had to resolder some wires or something like that. I don't know. That was Jonathan took care of that with whoever was working on the AV stuff at the time.
So I assume that power is produced by the DigiCo module back there.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. Or I mean, it's basically flipping a switch inside that box in the rack back there. Or I mean, it's the same thing for any of the inputs on the physical board on the back of the board itself too. Those they all have phantom power on them. So yeah, this is just basically remote controlling the ones that are
yeah, because
in
you
the
just got
back.
a network cable from here to there, so it
Yep.
has to tell that,
Yeah,
turn on
the
that.
preamp itself is in the rack,
Yeah.
in the box in the rack, and that's what's actually getting the power.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know if there's something more to what I've just gone through, like questions about that or anything like you want to know a little bit more about.
I watched that video, I'll probably have lots of them.
So the way that we just went through, an instrument should work right now?
Not necessarily. That most of the time, but again, there's other, because the patch panel in the back is another one that's a point where something could be off. But that should rarely, if ever, change. But just to know that it's there, because sometimes it does. And usually if it changes, it's not something that there was a bulletin put out for everybody to know that, hey, this is what happened. It's like, surprise. So
So what we covered here, I'm assuming 90% of no sound issues is something that we covered.
Mostly I'll go through a few other just ones that are typically problems, like with guitars, batteries. A dead battery will get you every time, and 90% of the time when it's a dead battery on the guitar itself, on the pickup on the guitar player said they just replaced their batteries like the day before. so it's just like, I mean, it's something to always make sure if it's an acoustic guitar, make sure they have, like, ask them if you're having any of these problems, or if signal's coming in but it's very weak. There's a good chance they're having, if nothing else seems to be anything that makes sense or seems to be like, oh, yep, I found the problem here, that's a good possibility. Always make sure I think we typically have fresh, I know we have a handful of batteries sitting right in there, but I think most of them are 9-volt batteries. I know I think in the rack up there's usually 9-volt batteries, maybe a couple
I'm
of
not
them.
sure about the
use.
rack, but I'm pretty sure I just saw some in that closet.
Or in the back, behind
Yeah.
the stage or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, behind the
I was gonna
fence.
say, I know typically we have batteries if they need them. Some of them keep their own batteries, rechargeable batteries or whatever, but it's just one of those things to always make sure, if nothing else seems to be the problem, hey, when's the last time you changed your batteries? And even if they say yesterday, give them a new set of batteries and see what happens. So yeah, anything else with what we've gone through so far?
I think so. Electric guitars have their own, get power from what?
They have their, like, the two electric guitar players that we have both have a pedal board that has its own, like, it plugs into 120 volt power up on the stage. So yeah.
And that
so they're-
unit is what plugs into a box.
Yep.
To get the
That, yeah, we just plug, there's a they're stereo pedal boards that we plug in to the stage box up there. And that channel, it's something that's on here set up to go the way it is all the time, but it may be, like, again, maybe for whatever reason there was something midweek that somebody swapped a cable or pulled a cable from one spot, but if we only have one electric guitar, which is only ever the case outside of, like, maybe I don't even know that we've had more than one electric guitar on a worship night.
Isn't the bass and the electric and this side for a lot of services?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
But you're saying not two besides the
Two
bass
electric
player.
guitars,
Right.
right? Yeah, the bass is, yep. That's its own thing.
And the keyboard has its own input
Yep,
also.
yep,
It's just one input.
yep.
Right.
And that's I mean, the keyboard, I don't know that there's ever a service we don't have keys.
Right.
So it's always there, plugged in. That's, channel 1 and 2 all the time. Rarely is there any issue with that. It never, like, the patching never changes on it. The only thing that sometimes, like, and I'm trying to even think the last time we had this issue, but I mean, the volume control on the keyboard affects the gain on the board.
Okay.
So if they're messing with that at all, it will affect the gain on here. But I want to say they have either tape or some kind of mark on there where they're supposed to set it, and they keep it there. I don't know if that's still a thing. It was at one point, but I know I rarely, if ever, have to change it, depending on, like, because they have different settings, like different patches on the keyboard that are different sounds, and certain ones come through less, like at a lower level than others. So there's some of them that if they change for a certain song, they change to a certain patch. Usually it's never like, oh, it's coming through way too hot. It's usually always, it was fine before, and now all of a sudden I can barely hear it. So I might need to make an adjustment,
So
but that's a
it's not-
gain thing that, again, unless you're mixing, you don't really need to worry about that.
There's not a line out per se that's actually coming from a port that the volume controls. In other words, the volume control on there for the output controls how much comes to here.
Yeah, I mean, I still, like, because it's plugged into a DI that's plugged into a stage box.
Right.
Coming to here just like any other instrument. But no matter how, like, I could gain it all the way up as hot as I can turn it, and if they turn the volume all the way down, I'm not gonna be getting any
Right,
signal
okay,
here,
got it.
or hardly any.
Some of the guitars have volume controls as
Yes,
well. Some of them
yep.
don't.
Okay.
And EQ controls too, which sometimes that can make, like, if they've got all their EQ controls turned all the way down, it's essentially gaining their guitar down a significant amount. So that could be one thing, because I know, like, I think one time that was kind of the case, and they thought that turned all the way down was basically having no EQ and just it being level all the way across the spectrum, which isn't necessarily, like, basically there's a halfway point, and that's probably always, it may be different for every guitar or whatever, but
Sure. Katie, questions?
No, not this part.
I think after I watched John's video a couple of times, I mean,
now I have access to everything right here, and so I can scroll through banks, and this stays. So I can, if I'm, maybe I notice something on the drums I want to mess with here, I can still, and the band is going right now, I can still, at least I don't have control of each individual person and each individual instrument necessarily, but I have control of those groups.
that's for the group.
So, and it's, I don't want that to be misunderstood, because these aren't controlling those groups. These are controlling the inputs. Like this keys right here, it's controlling the keys instrument itself, the single input, and the keys and the pad together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not controlling the keys group.
Okay.
Because the red ones are different than are those brown or those yellow or those gold?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, but they're called VCAs or DCAs. It's just this is just a remote control. It's not a channel. It's not like on the groups. It's an output, but it's got all I can do all the processing I can do on an input channel on a group. Where these VCAs, which here like the VCA, it's just, this is telling you the things that it's controlling,
You can
but
program
it's
what it controls,
but it's
yeah.
just a remote control for those faders. Like I'm controlling 4 faders at once with this one fader.
Okay.
Same with those two. It's just
Yeah, okay.
a remote control fader is all it is. There's no
Okay.
processing. It's not, the signal isn't flowing through these like a group channel or anything like that. This is,
So how do you set those then in a normal service?
so I have, so
Because you're still
the,
gonna be doing here.
right. So I usually have these all set at Unity at 0. That's how I start out, except, so the band and the vocals, now these are controlling the groups.
Okay.
Like I don't want, this could easily be like, get confusing, but I don't want it to be that. So, yeah, so these, like I can, instead of, like I rarely do too much with these. I usually let them sit, but I usually let them sit a little lower. But if I needed to, like there's times when we've had, like the band will be playing behind, like towards the end of, Pastor Michael specifically asked for the band to play this certain song, kind of coming out of his sermon. And so he'll be talking and they'll be either in the middle of a song or kind of transitioning in and out of a certain song that fits for that week or whatever. And that's where I can use this to, like, I can just control the volume of the whole band, just kind of pull them down and let, so Pastor Mike can be heard speaking. And then when he's done, like, I can just push the whole band without sitting there having to, like, do individual faders or even, like, multiple of these to try and get that balance right. I can just take the entire band and pull them way down so they're sitting underneath Pastor Mike or whatever, and then push them back up.
What's the difference between band and vocals?
The band is all the instruments. The vocals are just this is no vocals. And this is just both background and lead vocal are both on this fader.
And you just keep them kind of at a neutral level.
Yeah, so it's what I have these at a position because I want this to sit close to, like, I'm always somewhere between -5 and 0 on the master fader. So the way I have like my group set up for like the processing that it's doing, I want that to I want that to be at that space to trying to think of how to say this properly. Like when this is at somewhere between this area of unity and -5, I want the volume in here, the level of the audio coming out of the PA to be good and full, like what it should be at, I guess, what feels good for a Sunday service. And so I do that by allowing, like, these, if I gain everything up to what is like the nominal level, the good level to be coming in, and I just turned everything up to unity, it'd be screaming loud in here. So these, I can pull these groups down to here, have my master fader somewhere around 0 to -5, and it's a comfortable volume.
Okay.
What is, like, talk a little bit about the mute buttons and like the little triangles.
All right, that's another reason why I have like these control groups set up. It's one, so I can, if I need to, control multiple things with just one fader. Also, I'm muting, like I can unmute everything and mute everything with those 4 faders. So this, like, instead of going and trying to mute all the drum channels and, doing that, whatever, like, I can just take this and, well, now that I did them, like, I can just, darn it. I'm like, you can undo it. I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't have the drums assigned to the drum group right now, because this is
Oh, it's
the
special.
Sunday afternoon service, which is
Right. So
the
should we
Cajon,
just
I
load
just-
up a template?
yeah. I'm like, I want to make sure we're not. Yeah, so we won't. Alright. So this is just the this is the base template for a typical Sunday morning service. Like this is my starting point for every Sunday morning service. Load this up, and then I just, fill in the names or put up if there's any other instrument outside of what is already set up there. Like I'll do that.
So like here, these are the three, like these three mics. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So now now
Oh, yeah.
all the drums mute and unmute just with that button. And now, so that's,
Those would normally be off or not read during the service.
well, during the musical part of the service. But when the band's done, I mute that because that's 10 open mics up on the stage.
Okay.
And or if when they're coming back out after the sermon or whatever it is, and the bass guitar clicks his pedal and it makes a big pop, like anything to I mean I know there's a lot of people that don't, they just leave everything unmuted once the service starts, and it stays that way throughout the whole service. But there's too many times where it's just those little things, like somebody sitting down at the keyboard and they bump their elbow on one of the keys, and
Sure.
It makes a noise that's not intentional. So
Or Timothy doesn't turn his mic off when he's done.
yes, all of that stuff.
Yeah, there's things like that on the light board, so I understand that. Like
Yep.
bringing the band light down and then pausing and bringing the sermon light up. Now you got a dark hole in that 5 or 6 seconds rather than bring them together down and up. Yeah,
Yes.
so it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, basically for me, anything that doesn't need to be, any microphone that doesn't need to be on, or instrument that doesn't need to be on, like I'm eliminating all the possibilities for something that you don't want happening.
And like you say,
Whether
that's
it's
a quick
feedback.
a quick way of doing it without
Yep.
going.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, once like after the second song, when Pastor Timothy or Michael or whoever is getting up there to do the reading and all that, like I'll give it, a little bit of time. I won't sit there and like make a hard cutoff like as soon as the last,
Yeah.
as soon as they're done, just because there might be like a pad that's just playing in the background that's fading out, or some of the tracks that are kind of fading out. I'll let them do that, and then I'll get it. But I want to do it somewhat quickly, because like I said, like there's, like one of Brett's bass guitars, always, like it pops really bad anytime he hits that mute pedal up there. And so, between that and, again, just any unintentional noise that an instrument may make while they're handling them, I don't want any of that stuff coming through the PA. I want music to be coming through the PA
yeah.
when they're playing music.
Well, you're a professional, and it should be that way.
And that's maybe using the term professional loosely. but yeah, and again, like the biggest one for me is a feedback thing like that. Fortunately, it rarely ever happened. I can't even think of when it has happened. Usually, it's in the subs that it feeds back here, and again, that's been rare. But just eliminating that possibility if there's no open mics on stage besides for the person that's speaking at that time, then you don't got to worry about trying to figure out
Yeah.
what mic is
They
feeding
did
back
the
if you do
button
get
all the way
feedback.
off or something.
Yep.
Okay, then on the arrows,
Yeah, the triangles.
Triangle.
That's the solo button. So you do that. So again, here, I'm gonna bring back up that channel just to show it, and I wish it was making better noise, but yeah. So it's making that ugly noise, but so now when you solo a channel, that channel's meter comes up here. That's the input meter of that channel showing up on here. So like when the band is starting rehearsal, that's when I'm using this to gain their channels up, because they can be playing and, you know, getting themselves situated and started. And instead of, I like that it shows up here because I can kind of look across the whole thing and I can right away just being very familiar with it, I can pick out like, oh, something's, that's either screaming hot because it's in the red, or it's barely any signal coming through at all. And I can pick that out all the way across and maybe dive into that a little quicker to fix something so the band can like move on without being too distracted. So, but when I'm like getting everything dialed in, like fine tuning everything, like I'm soloing each specific channel, and so that way I can see it really nice and clearly up here where it's sitting. And I want to get mine, 20, 18, whatever those numbers are. It's like right after it goes from green to yellow or orange or amber, whatever color that is. That's where I want the average level of that signal to be sitting when I'm gaining something up. And I can see it a lot better over here than I can up here. I can still see it up here, but it doesn't show up as clearly. It's kind of just it's a lot smaller space, so I'm not seeing it as granularly as I would up there.
And the other function of that is it goes to the headphones.
And yes, it takes that channel and puts it to the headphones. So if nothing is soloed, what is coming out of the master bus is going into your headphones. But then as soon as you solo something, just that channel all by itself is coming into here.
So then I used that on Sunday with Bethany's guitar having trouble because she would plug it in, but we couldn't hear it. And so then I would solo it, and by hearing just the guitar, all I heard was zzz. So I knew that there was something wrong with her guitar. And then we tried a different input, a different channel, and it was the same.
Same thing.
So that's nice to use the headphones to
Yes.
dive into those details.
Yep.
that box just a splitter or an amplifier or?
No, it's essentially just a DI kind of, or I'm just bringing channels in, like I'm using that so I can visually see, I can see my mix as a whole up on the screen here, a visual representation of the entire spectrum, because I've got like this microphone right here is just capturing the PA in the room. And so I can see, and that's plugged into there, and then also just to be able to see like time alignment things, which is again like
Is that a 301?
Well, yeah, that might be like a 601 or so. But yeah, that's the mix, the master bus like mix that's coming out of the board is also going directly to there. And then so I know what the delay time is between that signal that's going out of the board and how long it takes to travel through all the wires and come out of the speakers and hit that microphone.
Okay. That's what your headphones are plugged into?
Nope, the headphones are plugged into the board.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Okay. Well, that's good to know, too.
yep.
Can you go through the channel?
Okay. So you're saying like everything that's
Yeah, like
on this,
yeah, like when you go through. Okay, there's this screen is the input flow, right? The
Yes.
signal flow, but then the next screen down is like EQ, and the next screen is whatever compressor and
well,
all
this
those other
this is an
things.
overview of all that, and you can just pick which one. Like, again, if you want to get to the EQ, I mean, you can do it from here or from the overview of the channel. Your EQ's here, your compressor's here, gate, or like you can set these up as different things, but I mean, you can get to them from
Right.
this overview screen or from here on the channel. It'll take you there also.
So what do these do? I mean, I know what an EQ does, but
Yep.
the rest of them I don't understand. And I was like, why did Jonathan tell me I had to have them?
I don't know.
Okay, well, tell me what it does.
You don't you don't have to. I mean, yeah, so the compressor, it takes the signal and it can like in the most basic sense, it is you can take it and you're turning down the highest points of that signal. And you can also turn up the lower level points of that signal. That's
That's
like
what it does.
very, very general description of it.
So why would you need it or not need it?
It can it helps to it narrows down the dynamic range of that input. So an acoustic guitar, say, like, especially if when it's somebody who's also singing, like they're playing, even if they're really good, they're likely, as they're singing and getting excited and moving around, they're not necessarily playing at a very like even level. I mean, even outside of like the dynamics of the song that
Right.
like are supposed to go up and down, they're just their hand is maybe hitting a little harder or softer in certain parts because they're moving around, they're singing, they're nervous, and nobody's perfect. So that, for me, I want to keep the acoustic guitar where it can be heard in the mix all the time, for the most part. Sometimes I don't want to hear the acoustic guitar. That's for another video. But yeah, so I'll take it and I can turn down the threshold to a point where I'll start seeing where it shows gain reduction here, or it says GR. That's gain reduction. It's knocking down the high points of that signal. It's knocking them down whatever you set it to do, 3, 4, 5 dB or whatever it is. So all of a sudden those louder parts where they're getting really excited don't stick out so much. And then I can use makeup gain to turn up the lower parts to kind of compensate for, I just turned down that signal somewhat. Now I'm turning up to make up for some of the lower parts of that signal. So I'm just squeezing the dynamic range. Like, so instead of like the loudest parts are up here and the quietest parts are down here, the loudest parts are more like here and the quieter parts are more like here. So it's just kind of sticking it right in this area. So instead of like constantly sitting there doing this with my finger on the fader, I may still move it a little bit, but it's really small moves now and then. But I can mostly just leave it alone and it'll sit in a decent place.
And that's audio levels, doesn't have anything to do with the frequencies of the tones that they're actually.
Actually, I mean, it does. I mean, so there is a multi-brand compressor that you can pick specific points in the frequency spectrum to do it, but it does affect just even a normal compressor like this. It does affect tone.
Okay.
Especially like on something like an acoustic guitar, or on drums, like something with a lot of transient like spikes. It can definitely shape the tone of those instruments. On a distorted electric guitar, it's not going to do much because it's already the guitar itself, and whatever processing that's going through its pedal board is doing more of that than you're going to do here or need to.
Okay. All right. What's the next one? This one.
And
That one.
this is a gate, and it's something like I use it on the drums, mostly just on the toms.
So we don't really use it on any other instrument.
No, I used to use it on Chad's electric guitar because it was so noisy all the time. I don't know that it's not at all noisy anymore, but it's not. I haven't noticed it, although it's rare. It's rare that we have an electric guitar here at all, so it's rarely an issue. But I have used it to so what a gate does is like you turn on the gate and it's got a threshold on it like the compressor does. The signal has to get over that threshold for it to open up the gate and make noise. Until it goes over that threshold, basically that microphone is pretty much shut off. It's almost like it's muted. It's not. It's actually just knocked out. You can adjust this. It's called a range on here too. Like the default on it is -40 dB, which is basically just taking the fader all the way down. And you can adjust that. So even when the gate is closed, it's still allowing some sound to get through. That way you don't hear, like, especially on the drums, like if the gate's closed and you have it, the range turned all the way down, there's no noise coming out of it, and then all of a sudden, like, they hit the tom and it opens the gate up, and not only do you hear the sound of the tom that they just hit, but all of a sudden all the cymbals that they just had hit, and the kick drum and the snare drum, like all the sounds that are in the space are coming through that microphone also. So when that opens up and all of that sound is just all of a sudden there, and then all of a sudden it goes away again, it doesn't sound normal or natural. So even using gate, like I use them sparingly to begin with, and when I use them, I'm especially on the drums because of that, like not wanting them to open up and all of a sudden just all this noise on top of the noise I'm trying to hear. But I'll usually have the range turned up maybe -20, even sometimes not even that, just because that way when it opens and closes, it's not something that's perceivable. It's not something noticeable. If you soloed it and listened to it in headphones, you'd still notice it. But in the context of the mix, it's still getting rid of the noise that you don't necessarily want to hear, but it's not, when it does open up and you get the sound you want, and not so much other sound that it's like, oh wow, that was weird. I don't know.
Going back to the compressor, when would you use it for vocals?
Always.
Always.
I mean, I always do use it. Again, it's just helping you keep everything kind of locked into a certain place. But that doesn't mean you have to have it. So I just like, I want to make that clear, because if you don't have the compressor on, it's not like you should be running around back here like, oh no, the compressor's not on and everybody stop. Yeah,
Right,
like nobody even notices. Like nobody notices. Nobody notices.
Jason would notice.
It depends.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't notice unless you're doing like super heavy
If you're
compression.
smashing it, then you'll notice.
Then everybody will notice. Yeah. And it won't sound good when it's on. But
Right. Okay.
and that's subjective too, so I suppose
Yeah.
it could.
Anything we should know about EQing or what not to do when we're EQing? Is that a whole separate? That's a whole separate.
John, I love your curiosity, but we're getting into questions that are better suited for, like, I'm teaching you how to mix with virtual sound check now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Jesse, don't let that stop
Yeah.
you from answering anything.
I mean, I think you said that well, because that's a really broad topic that could be very different for each input, or for speech instead of music, or whatever. I mean, or are we solving a problem, or are we just trying to shape the way something sounds to our taste? That's
Okay.
And for me, it's kind of a moot point with my hearing loss. My frequency range is pretty narrow,
yeah.
and it's a peak for speech. So music, yeah, it sounds great,
Yeah.
but what sounds great to me wouldn't sound great to you.
Right. And that's another reason because I mean, I don't know what parts of my hearing aren't, up to par or whatever. So that's another reason why I like to use that to help me see. Like, I can see on a spectrum of the entire frequency range not just what it sounds like to me, but what that sound looks like.
Right.
It at least gives, it's not something where you're necessarily like, it has to look like this, but at least it helps me know that even maybe I have a cold, or my ears are just fatigued because I was at a rock concert the night before, or something like that. Like, whatever it could be, like, my ears may not be exactly, where the best they could be or whatever that day. And maybe I'm not hearing something how I normally do, or maybe somebody's voice sounds different than it normally does, and I want to make sure it's my, like, something with my ears or what I'm hearing, or is it like it looks like it should on there, and so I'm just hearing it differently, or something looks a little off. It doesn't look how it normally looks when I normally hear what I think is the way it sounds.
Good point.